Hey, dear listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. If you ever see anyone who's impersonating me, email us. Don't comment below because I don't see all the comments. So email us directly through the website. That will help us a lot because obviously if there's an impersonator, that is not a great thing. I don't use WhatsApp. Sometimes an impersonator will say, hit me up on WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp. I won't ever try to sell you anything. Keep that in mind. Watch out for that kind of stuff. And let's watch.
Everybody!
Why would you say Jovis Christ baby?
You have insulted everybody. Every cast member up here, you insult everyone.
Okay,
what the
it's
hell
not
is so
my turn.
perfect
It's not
about
my
you?
turn. Hey, you had your turn yesterday.
Oh, be quiet.
You had
Don't
your
sit
turn
here and
yesterday.
Insult everybody. Stop it.
You had your turn yesterday. It's not
Really?
about you. You had your turn.
My turn is whenever I want to take my turn.
Stop. You had.
Yeah, I think everyone's behind Jenny on this one. And I don't know, it kind of looks like Ed either was instructed or thinks or both that it's within his interest to drum up drama on the tell-all. I think that his issues with Liz are at least a replica of a legit problem between the two of them, if not legit, maybe a little amped up because of this reason or tamped down. I mean, we heard the phone call, the leaked phone call by Liz, and Ed was worse in that phone call. So, and that was presumably him being spontaneous and being real. So with this situation, and I haven't been reacting, Ed frequently will chime in and attack people. He seems to be black and whiting people. Like there are people that he likes, like Bilal, and does he like anyone else? And then everyone else is like, he just attacks them. And it just kind of looks a little fabricated. Ed doesn't usually do this at these kinds of tell-alls. Either way, he's choosing to do this. You know, the producers could absolutely be trying to influence the cast members in a variety of ways. And the cast members have free will. Now, I think there's often an implication that if you don't play ball, then you won't be invited back on the show. Also, you could imagine a cast member intuiting that if they create drama, then they will be asked back onto more seasons. So, and they get paid for it, and they get clout. They get more Instagram followers. They can sell their merch. They can sell their OnlyFans. They can sell their cameos. They can sell their whatever, and good for them. They should try to get theirs. Rose used this show as from what I understand, a jumping off point to become an entrepreneur. Usman, I think, is similar seeming, and good for them, right? They should try. However, it's bothersome to see behavior that seems not authentic, right? Inauthentic. But I think Jenny's being authentic right now. At the very least, you could say that if Ed is being fake, that it is provoking Jenny to exhibit a side of herself that we've seen. I mean, I'm now remembering times when she would become pretty aggressive and physical with Summit, which was concerning at the time, obviously, heading into abusive behavior for sure. But in this moment, I think it's good to see. I think a lot of people are angry at Ed, and Jenny has been stewing on that for a while.
My turn is not when you tell me to.
Hey, you had your turn yesterday.
Kiss my ass, dude.
So shut up.
Whoa. You shut up.
That should be a meme, right? Kiss my ass, dude. I mean, at the very least, this moment gives us that. I always wonder what will become memes. Although I feel like the memification of 90 Day Fiancé has slowed down. There's certain memes that I see, people will email me or whatever, and I will see certain, and they all happened before I started actually watching the show. I would go back and see those scenes, like the makeup thing, give me my makeup from Anfisa. We have Darcy crying. Yeah, some of these memes, if not all of them, are capitalizing on some real emotional trauma for these individuals. I think, Anfisa, Darcy, these are pretty bad moments, and they are, I don't know, it depends on who the joke is on, right? If Darcy sells the merch of her crying, which I don't think she does, then good for her. But anyway, I feel like some of these moments, like this would not be making fun of Jenny. This would be actually celebrating a moment of someone standing up to Ed on the tell-all. So, are people still doing, or maybe just people stopped sending me the memification, the 50%, right, from Nicole and Azan, you're lazy. They are funny moments, I suppose. But so if you ever see any memes, send them to me. I'm curious about what people are talking about and what is, what's out there. But anyway, so Jenny's really going after Ed.
You had your turn yesterday,
Kiss my ass, dude.
so shut up.
Whoa.
You shut up.
Whoa.
Go
We're
away.
not talking about
You
me.
are so rude. You're so rude to everybody.
Oh,
Seriously.
Find me a river.
He is, man. He's the worst thing I've ever met in my life.
Honestly, John, can I say
I
something?
will.
Okay, Usman, go ahead.
Like, no disrespect. Yeah.
Okay, using this as a jumping off point, this could be a factor in Ed's decision making in this moment. It could be a main factor, a minor factor, or not a factor at all. I don't know. I would obviously have to talk to them about it. But when people are in a situation where they are, behaving in a way that's causing everyone to dislike them, or some people to dislike them, they will get rejection. As a way of coping with that, some people will lean into it. So we all understand that for some kids, when they're not given enough attention, they will seek any kind of attention, even negative attention, right? So if a child is being neglected emotionally and they are constantly bidding for attention, they're reaching out, they're, hey, will you play with me? Or they'll just interact and they just get rejected a lot. Kids who are raised in foster care sometimes can have those histories, and then in foster care, although the foster parents can be loving and caring, sometimes the amount of attention isn't enough, especially to make up for the past. Anyway, and then the child learns by trial and error that when they get in trouble, when they have bad behavior, then they get attention because a kid will wake up in the morning, hey, will you play with me? No. Hey, might laugh at something and hope that someone will participate. Nothing happens. And then you punch your sibling, or you break something, or you have a temper tantrum, or you run away and come back, or you steal something from the store, or you hit one of your parents or something, or you say a swear word, or you smoke marijuana. There's just various different things that will get the attention of caregivers, and they will pay attention to you. It'll be negative attention, right? They will be disciplining you, but it's attention. There's, hey, stop doing that. Let me punish you. Why are you doing that? Even if it's abusive attention, like you're a piece of crap for doing that kind of thing. At least it's attention. There's nothing worse to a child than just being completely ignored. Infants will literally die at times because of lack of physical and emotional attention. Newborns need to be held, and there are documented data demonstrating that when you don't hold a child enough, it raises the risk of sudden death for an infant. So we crave and biologically, psychologically need to have attention throughout our life. One could argue that me doing this YouTube channel is one big attempt to get attention, or at least it satisfies that need, and it absolutely does. And you're meeting my needs in this way. You are meeting that need in a functional way, right? It's like volunteer. You don't have to watch it, that kind of thing. So, I'm not forcing anyone, and I'm, also trying to help the world. But, you could argue that a good amount of my needs are being met like this. And it releases my wife from having to pay that much attention to me. So my wife thanks you on, I'll provide that on her behalf. I don't know if she would say that, but so, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's quite normal and healthy. We need nourishment and, with calories and nutrients that we eat. We need certain vitamins. We need to be in nature. We need love and attention. We need fulfillment in life. We need safety and shelter, and there's all these things that we need, and attention is one of those fundamental things that we need. So when a child doesn't get any, then they will seek it negatively. Essentially, within schema therapy, which I find to be a very useful model, you develop a schema early in life that you don't deserve attention, or that the world will never give you attention, that people can't be depended on in that way. And some of you might have this schema throughout your life. And of course, going to therapy to help with that is the key to get awareness and have corrective experiences, which are the two pillars of change. So with these individuals, they have three styles within schema therapy, within the model of, and listen to my deep dives on that, on schema therapy. It's a very useful model. It dovetails nicely with attachment theory and psychodynamic theory. And what the developers of the theory put forth, which I adhere to as well, is that there are three different main styles of dealing with the schema. So you internalize this reality that you don't deserve attention. And that's what children will often conclude, that it's not just my caregivers or just the people around me. It's generalized to the entire world, because children don't know that they're in a pocket of an anomaly. They figure this is the world, and it is their world, right? So any reality that you have 0 to 5 years old, you'll just lock that in as that's reality, even when it changes for you after that point in time. So with people who aren't getting attention, then they just believe they're inherently unworthy of attention, and or other people are inherently rejecting, cold, and not caring to them. So that is very distressing to the individual, because they have these needs that emerge in them for attention, and then it quickly is dealt with by their schema of just like, but remember that you don't deserve it, or other people will never be there for you. So you have to have some way of coping with that. That's the way of explaining schema therapy. And there are three different styles. One is to surrender to that schema. So you could, for example, surrender by saying, yep, I don't deserve attention. That's just the way that it is. I will seek partners or situations in life that really just acknowledge the concrete fact that I don't deserve attention. I will become very shy. I will become very invisible. I won't speak up. I will choose people that are narcissistic and take up way too much space, because it's just the way that it is. So this is subconscious, of course. It's not a conscious thought that people do. Sometimes it'll be a little conscious, but mostly it's unconscious. And so these people will live entire lives with people that will ignore them because they sought them out, or they'll even socialize people around them to ignore them. In their conscious mind, they're just like, no one ever pays attention to me. But then when someone manages to pay attention to them, then they might even reject in a way that is subconscious. One thing that I saw in a client was she had this schema. And so when people paid attention to her, me, for example, and I imagine that this happened outside of my office, that she would avert her eyes. And in the beginning of therapy, I didn't know about the schema, and it was off-putting. It made me feel rejected. It made me feel like she didn't actually, and this wasn't some sort of neurodivergent issue. It was related to this schema, as I found out later. But I, in the beginning, actually didn't even register that she would do that with her eye contact. And in the first number of minutes of the first session, I felt as if I was being rejected. I didn't register it consciously, but I started to get I felt a feeling of unease. And so over time, then I was like, oh, I think it's this eye contact thing. Or it's also not the eye contact, it's a kind of a vibe thing of I don't know, just it felt rejecting. It felt like I was not being a good therapist. It felt like this individual didn't want to talk to me or wasn't receptive. And so I started to feel hurt, and I started to have judgmental thoughts about her. And if I were a friend of hers or a coworker, then I would probably just never interact with her or try to minimize my interactions with her, because I didn't feel good talking to her. But because I'm a therapist and should know better, I was like, well, what's going on? Over time, I figured out that she, unbeknownst to her, She didn't know she was doing this, really. In fact, she might even interpret it as she's being polite, or it made some sort of conscious sense to her that she would do that very frequently. And over time, we conceptualized it as a subconscious way of surrendering to the schema that she doesn't deserve to be paid attention to. Because as I was paying attention to her, naturally, because we're in therapy, it would be overwhelming to her. It would feel overwhelming to her, and it's uncomfortable. And so she would avert her eyes because it was just too much. Or she felt shy, like she was asking for attention. She's like, oh, he's paying attention to me. I must be being annoying to people, so I'll let him off the hook. Or, there's various different cognitions that were involved or could be involved. And that's just one behavior. There's so many other ways in which people can surrender to the idea that they don't matter, or they don't deserve attention, or that attention is scary or something. Even though they desperately, desperately want attention, they want so much attention. Some of these individuals can be extremely narcissistic as well, covert narcissism, that kind of thing. Listen to my deep dive on narcissism. But so that's surrender and that's one. I've only described one part of surrendering to that schema. Then you also have avoidance of the schema. So you can deal with the schema by surrendering. You can deal with the schema by avoiding. One way to avoid is just to avoid relationships altogether, or to come across like you just don't really care about attention, or to, I don't know. Avoidance is often harder to provide examples. The easiest example often within schema therapy is the individual will just avoid relationships. But there's other examples that I can't really think of right now, but I could if I had more time. The other style of dealing with the schema is overcompensation. And for these individuals, so you have surrender, avoidance, overcompensation. To overcompensate for the schema that you don't matter, or that you'll never get attention, you're not worthy of attention, is to demand attention from other people. To say, I will make people pay attention to me, and I will reject paying attention to them. I will not pay attention to them. I will make them pay attention to me. Now, of course, what will result in all three of these, which is the problem, these styles, is it will result in not getting attention. If you surrender to not getting attention, you're not going to get attention. If you avoid getting attention, you're not going to get attention. If you overcompensate by demanding attention, then people eventually they might give you a little bit of attention up front, but eventually they're not going to want to give you attention because they're annoyed with you, or they feel hurt by you or something. So to overcompensate, one way is to act in ways that get you negative attention, right? But eventually people will be so bothered by your behavior that they just don't even want to deal with you, right? And another way to do it is to do what Ed is doing, is to yell at everyone and to try to make sure that everyone is paying attention to him, and that will fulfill your needs. That's the destructive power of these experiences growing up, these relational traumas of not being ignored. These individuals would rather everyone hate them, rather everyone reject them, but at the very least, they're being paid attention to. That's the sadness of this. That's the tragedy of this. That's the horribleness of this. And then, of course, these individuals will have children often, as most people do. Then those schemas will play out with the children, and the cycle continues, because that child will develop often a commensurate schema, or maybe a different sort of schema, because of the way the parent, the parent is acting out their schema with everyone, including their kids usually. And so the kid experiences some sort of relational trauma, and then they develop a schema, and then they have ways of coping with it that are destructive, and then they have kids, and it just gets passed down through the generations. The only way we can stop that is if we have therapy. Well, not the only way, but it's one of the ways. And again, you find a therapist that is knowledgeable in this area. They don't have to know schema therapy. There's a lot of other forms of therapy that will address this without having the system of schema therapy. In fact, I would say that only of the people that address schemas in my field, I would say maybe 5%, this is just anecdotal, are actually operating at least partially from a schema therapy model. So you don't have to do that kind of work in terms of screening a therapist, but you'd want to find a therapist that you just want to ask them, look, I think I have a schema, or I think I have a belief system about who I am based on my childhood experiences that's causing me a lot of problems, and I'd like to engage in some long-term therapy that raises my awareness and also provides corrective experiences. I need to have someone actually pay attention to me in a way that is healthy, so that I can learn that that's not actually true, that I'm unworthy of attention, or that other people will never give me attention, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I don't know if that's what Ed is doing, but it is a possibility. And it does fit with the other conceptualizations that I've had about him. Again, I have no idea. It could all be faked. I could be wrong. I'm just limiting. It's just limited information, total speculation, of course. By the way, merch, Total Speculation merch, still available. I say that because it just always surprises me that anyone would want to buy merch at all about this stuff. I was talking with someone, and she's like, "Oh yeah," because I can't remember who I was talking to. I think it was, well, anyway. Point is, and she watches the channel, and she's like, and someone said Total Speculation, one of us, and she said, by the way, I have a shirt that says Total Speculation, one of your shirts. And I was like, really? Like, you bought a shirt about this random phrase that I say? Now, having said that, I buy merch from things all the time, YouTube channels included, so I get it, but I just feel like I'm not special, not special. I don't know. I'm not famous enough. Why? Anyway, point is anyway, there is a Total Speculation. And it does fit well, it does dovetail well, and adds to the overall speculation ball, if you will, around narcissism, I sometimes I say narcissism, because I don't know, I'm trying to save time and my mouth doesn't always work. But when we are neglected growing up emotionally, we might develop that schema of I don't matter. And that can result in that overcompensation by grabbing attention. One could even call that an element or the core aspect of narcissistic personality spectrum, right? At the high end, you have the disorder, and moderate and mild, you don't. And avoidant, also attachment style, in that you will, in a pinch, give the ring back or break up with the person because you falsely believe that when you have attachment insecurity and there's a threat there that I think Ed is very frequently feeling, then the answer is to avoid, is to run. But underneath that avoidance is this deep, deep need for attachment and a preoccupation, if you will. I often say that underneath, if you're familiar with these concepts, underneath the defensive structure of every avoidantly attached individual is a preoccupied individual. Preoccupied people are just out there with their preoccupation. Avoidant people avoid their preoccupation, is the point. So, it all kind of fits together. But again, total speculation. All right, well, I want to thank you if you've liked this video or any of the videos and subscribed to the YouTube channel. That always helps. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.